what I was saying was, what was I saying? Today, I'm planting seedlings. One of our subscribers, Richard from the Rust Buddies YouTube channel, he reached out to me. He said, Tom, why don't you show us what a work day is like at Sleepy Lizard Avocado Farm? He said, call it Take a Subscriber to Work Day. So I said to Richard from Rust Buddies, I said, if I take you to work with me, what the heck am I going to talk about as I'm working, you know? And so I thought to myself, every time I take a pot and fill it with soil like this and grab an avocado seed and put it in the pot belly button down, I've planted a seedling. I have made an investment in my future, in my family's future, in the future of Sleepy Lizard Avocado Farm. So Richard, I thank you for my idea. I welcome you with me today at work, along with all the other subscribers who've chosen to watch this video. I'm going to plant some seeds and talk about investing. Now, the first thing you need to think about when you're going to make an investment is, what's your goal? What are you trying to do? You're 21, 22, 23, 35, 40, 45, 50 years old, right? You got $1. You can use it maybe to pay off some credit card debt. Maybe you could put that $1 in a 401k, put it towards your future. Maybe you could take that $1 and repair the car you're driving instead of buying a new one. You could put that $1 toward a vacation in France. So it's very helpful to know, what the heck am I trying to do here? Now, me today planting seeds, I'm investing in the future of Sleepy Lizard Avocado Farm, because I know as my avocado trees die, I have to replace them with new trees. I also know there's a market for selling trees. So if I grow some of these trees, whatever extras I have, I could sell them. My goal, in this case, what I'm trying to accomplish, is to grow my business. And now that I know that's my goal, I can't lose sight of that. Every decision I make today as to what to plant and how much to plant has to be in line with my goal of growing my business. Now, in your case, your goal might be saving for a down payment on a house. And maybe you got a bunch of high interest credit card debt. And maybe before you start saving up to buy a house, you need to pay off some of that debt. But Bruce Springsteen's coming to town, and his cheap seats are going for $300 a pop. Well, if your goal, if what you're trying to do with your money right now is save up and make a down payment on a house, have a good credit rating so you can get a decent mortgage, you're probably better off paying down the debt on your credit cards than incurring more debt and going to see Bruce Springsteen. So I think it's very important for us to know the purpose for our investments. Because then when we're about to make a decision, we could tie it back and ask ourselves, does this take me toward my goal or away from my goal? So I've decided that planting seedlings takes me toward my goal of being a tree farmer, right? I ain't gonna have no trees to sell if I don't have trees. I ain't gonna have no fruit to sell if I don't have trees to grow that fruit. So understand and embrace, live and breathe the purpose for your investment. That's the first thing I always try to think about. The next consideration, and this is going to start to feel a little bit like school, but the next consideration is a concept called opportunity cost. What is the next best usage of your scarce resource? Now, most of the time, the scarce resource we're talking about is money, right? So you're sitting there at the end of the week, you've bought all your food, your rent's paid up, you got $1 left over. You say to yourself, well, gosh, I can put this $1 toward my retirement account. Right now, that's getting me about 5% interest. Or I could take this $1 and pay off some debt. I got a credit card that's charging me 13% interest. So if you take that $1, stick it in your retirement account where you're going to expect to get 5% interest. Let's say you're in some kind of fixed income fund or something like that. The opportunity cost of that decision is the 13% return you would have got by paying off your credit card. You actually lost, right? You're planning for your future. You're trying to save money for the future, but there's no point saving a little when the same investment will reduce your costs by a lot. And on this topic with opportunity cost, the other thing you need to realize is it's always better to save money than to earn it. So if I have a credit card with 13% interest and I put an extra $1 down on that, I not only get an immediate 13% return on my money, and I know you finance guys will tell me how my math is wrong on this, but let's just keep things simple, right? I not only get an immediate 13% return on my money, but I'm not taxed because it's savings, it's not new income. On the other hand, if I put that $1 into an account that gets me 5% interest, whenever I sell that investment, whenever I withdraw from that account, I'm going to have to pay taxes on the 5%. So it's actually more like I'm getting maybe 3.5% compared to the 13 on the credit card. That is opportunity cost. The next best usage of your dollar. Well, for me, what's the opportunity cost of planting these trees? So I decided I'm going to plant trees. So I must have examined the opportunity cost, right? And in order to understand my opportunity costs, I have to ask myself, what are my scarce resources? Well, my scarce resources are my time. I could be using my time to do something else right now. And my space, right? I need space to grow these trees. So one could say the opportunity cost of planting avocado trees is maybe I could have planted mango or banana or some other tropical fruit. But a broader analysis, everything you see behind me, I could knock all this down right now and I could put up little container houses and maybe do an Airbnb. I could put up some fences and security cameras, charge people a couple $100 a month to store their boats here or their RVs. I could use this space to build stables and board horses. So now that you know what the purpose of your investment is, it's time to start looking at all of your options, all of the options that lead you to that same goal. Then you need to compare them and pick the one you think will be the best. Which brings us to our next topic. Pick the one you think will be the best. Because in investing, we're dealing with the unknown. We call that risk. We are taking a guess at the future. And the further out in the future it is, the harder it is to make an accurate guess. Generally speaking, the lower the risk, the lower the return. The higher the risk, the higher return. And let's think about why that is for a minute. So how would that apply to me as a farmer? Well, I know avocados are steady Eddie, especially the varieties I grow. I know that they're going to give me fruit every year. I know they're going to give me a pretty good yield. And I have a very good grasp on what my annual costs are. Now I might choose to cut down all my avocado trees and grow lychees. Lychee is a tropical fruit that when it's available, it gets a very high price. But then some years it just decides not to produce. And some years it won't produce, and sometimes it won't produce for 2 years in a row. So if it does produce, I might get 2-3 times in a year what I'll get for my avocados. But I don't know if I'm going to have 2-3 years in the middle where I don't get anything. Now if I do get lychees 4 years in a row, 5 years in a row, I'm going to make the equivalent in 5 years that it would take me 20 years to make on avocados. So the risk is higher, but the return is higher as well. I'm back. Man, did I need a break. It is hot out here. Whew, I'm out of breath. I'm sweaty. I don't know if you could see, but like I didn't get sprayed with a hose. That's sweat. This time of year I drink gallons of water and soda and stuff like that, Gatorade, just to keep me going out here. All right, let's get to putting some seeds in these pots. Behind me here in the back, you see I got a bunch already stacked up back there. I got maybe 2 dozen of avocado. So let's do a little bit of mango here. So here I got my bucket of mango seeds I've been germinating. Like I told you earlier, in wet moss. There's my mango seed. I just take it, put it in my potting soil, Put it just a little bit over it, and I've just planted a mango. Let's get back to our discussion about investing. As I said earlier, a farmer planting seeds is an investment in the future. Farmers who plant row crops, they got to decide, am I going to plant beans? Am I going to plant tomatoes? What am I going to plant? They calculate the cost, they anticipate a return, and they make their decision. Some years they win. Whatever crop they grow fetches a big price. Other years they lose. Some years they lose out big time. It's not uncommon to go by some of the tomato farms we have around here and see tomatoes literally dying on the vine. The farmers let them die on the vine. And it makes for a very interesting investment conversation. People say, well, that's a shame, all those tomatoes. Why would they let them go to waste like that? Well, the answer to that question is very simple. The cost to harvest and send to market of those tomatoes is greater than what you're going to get at current market prices. So it's actually cheaper to just let the tomatoes die on the vine. If I got to pay a crew $20,000 to come pick $15,000 worth of tomatoes, I just lost $5,000. On the other hand, if I do nothing, I didn't lose any money. It's a classic example of not throwing good money after bad money. This is a very important concept that you have to apply to your own investments. Ooh, look at that seed there. That's from a Valencia Pride. It don't even fit in the pot. I've had friends lose a ton of money. They buy a bunch of stock and they lose money on it. I say, well, what are you going to do? Oh, well, I lost 20 grand over the last year. Well, what are you going to do? Oh, I'm going to hold on to it till it recovers. Okay, so you paid 60 grand for a bunch of stock. It's now worth 40 if you were to sell it today. You lost 20 grand. For some reason, that company was bad enough that it lost 30% in value, right? 60 bucks a share down to 40 bucks a share. But you're telling me you're going to hold on to this stock because you need to recover. What if you sold it, you bought a different stock for 40, and that stock doubled, that stock shot up? You don't need to make your money back on the exact same investment that you lost. You need to know when to cut your losses and run. The point is, you can't be stuck on your investment. You got to be ready to dump it. You got to be ready to dump it when the time is right because you've maximized your return. You got to be ready to dump it when it's just so bad and so wrong, it's not worth pursuing anymore. Another concept that's important to keep in mind as I get going here, more of these mangoes. Look at Jennifer. One of our subscribers named Jennifer bought some trees off of me a couple of years ago when I still had trees. I remember when I actually filled her order. But another concept to keep in mind is if we're dealing with risk, what can you do to mitigate the risk? One thing you can do is diversify. Well, I've got diversification right here behind me in the truck. I got a bunch of pots with mango seeds, a bunch of pots with avocado seeds. I even have a little bit of exposure to the sapodilla market, those two in the back corner back there. And right now we don't do it because I'm just planting the seedlings. But in the fall, when I graft these trees, when I determine what varieties I'm going to grow, I'll diversify even more. So I'll do a few different varieties of avocado. I'll do some early season, some mid-season, some late season. I'll do some flowering type A's and some flowering type B's. I'll do some that are cold hardy and others that aren't. The idea being that some of the investments will do good, others maybe not so good, but over the course of your entire decision or your portfolio, think of this as a portfolio, I'm hoping that the average performance is good. I don't know if you could see that over there, but that's a mulberry tree. I'm going to go grab me a little fruit from it. The nice thing about being a farmer is in the middle of the day, if you want a little snack, there's always something somewhere you can eat. Another important thing to consider with investments or investing is not everything is an investment. I guess in strictly mathematical terms and strictly financial terms, you could consider every use of your scarce resource an investment of that scarce resource, right? But in the traditional sense of what we think of as an investment, A jet ski is not an investment. Unless you're in the jet ski business and you buy like 100 of them and you sell 100 of them for more than what you paid for them, then I'll give you that could be an investment. But a jet ski is not an investment. A trip to Paris is not an investment. There's no return on that. Once you spend that money, it's gone. And I know, at the end of it all we have are memories, right? Well, one thing I'm trying to do for me and my family is that at the end of it all, we don't have memories of being poor and broke. But I think it's important to balance between investing for our future and enjoying what we're doing right now. I think we do need to go on vacations. I think we do need to have experiences and create memories for ourselves and for our families. But we have to have the right balance. So back in 2005, I did the Ironman triathlon, the one out there in Hawaii, the World Championships. I was on TV and everything. I wasn't on TV because I was in the front of the race. I was way in the back of the race. But the camera grazed by me one time and I was on TV. To do an Ironman takes probably 30 hours training a week. The bike back then cost about $5,000. That was in 2005, almost 20 years ago. It's my understanding now the wheels go for $5,000, but my bike was $5,000. Flying to Hawaii and staying in a hotel in Hawaii is not cheap, especially during Ironman week because the hotel prices are through the roof. But it was a lifelong goal of mine. It was something I always wanted to do. So that year I had to sit back and say to myself, okay, I'm going to invest almost a full-time job's worth of my time into training for this thing. I'm going to drop $5,000 on a bike, probably another $2,000 or $3,000 on other types of equipment, probably another $10,000 to get my wife. My son wasn't born yet, but to get me and my wife out to Hawaii on this trip, right? And I had to go into that with my eyes open. I had to go into that knowing that 30 hours a week, I could have got a job at Walmart making minimum wage, bringing money in, right? Instead of spending $5,000 on a bike, I could have maybe took $5,000 and bought Apple stock. But I wanted to have some balance. And that was an experience that I just always dreamed of. And since I watched the Ironman with my mother the very first year they did it, I think it was 1983 or 1981 or something, that real dramatic scene you see where the woman falls and crawls across the finish line. I was always obsessed with doing the Ironman triathlon. So I'm not saying that you need to make every dollar count, that you need to make every minute count, but I am saying you need to go into these things with your eyes open. I know a lot of people, they blow a lot of money, which is fine by me. Blow all your money, I don't care. But then they whine and complain that they're broke. And they have a very hard time connecting their bad financial decisions to the fact that they're broke. They think they just need to make more money. They don't realize they're going to blow it just as fast because they don't apply sound investment analysis in thinking about how they're going to spend their money and their time. I feel like I'm getting a little preachy, so I'm going to take another break and get myself a drink of water. I'll be right back. All right, I kind of worked my way through my avocado seeds. Let's see, here's one. I think that's it. All right, so the ones I had here in the moss, I got one more to plant. So come on over here, I'll show you how I get more seeds. All right, be glad you can't smell this, because this is not a good smell. Ooh-wee, yuck. What you see here is a pile of avocados that didn't make the cut. When I ship my avocados to my customers, I'm always going through them, and any of them that are too blemished, or maybe they have a squirrel that took a bite out of them or something like that, I just set them aside and I let them soften, I let them ferment a little bit. And then I just extract the seeds like I'm doing right now. And then I keep them in my moss. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Then I'm loading up the truck bed here and I'll run them out to my shade house. I'll keep them in shade. And I've got built-in irrigation there that I'll run. I'll probably run it every day right now because it's just so darn hot in the summertime. Then when these things start to sprout, maybe I'll switch to every other day. And it's July, going into August. It's the end of July right now. So round about the holidays, around like say Thanksgiving time, we'll start harvesting what we call budwood. And I'll start turning these seedlings into the type of avocado trees I want. But back to this idea of investing, and let me just talk while I load these into the truck. I made a huge sacrifice when I decided to be an avocado farmer. I was a vice president of sales at one of the world's largest corporations. It was beautiful. It was a great job, and I was really good at it. But it wasn't how I wanted to live my life. And as you get older, time becomes more scarce a resource than money, at least if you've been saving and investing, right? You start running out of time much faster than you start running out of money. And I saw too many people live that corporate life where they went to 65 or 70 years old, retired, got diagnosed with some really bad illness, and the next thing you know, I'm on my way to a memorial service, right? Thoughts and prayers. Poor guy didn't get a chance to see his kids grow up because he was on the road all his life like I was, you know. Poor guy didn't even get to go help his daughters choose where they wanted to go to college. I didn't want any of that in my life. And I realized that time is a scarce resource. I probably could have stayed at that company one more year, certainly 2 more years, and made more money than I'm going to make doing this for the rest of my life. But I love this. In 2020, when everything was shut down, nobody had contact with anyone, I probably met more people that year through this YouTube channel than I've ever met in my whole life. Some of y'all have been my friends now for the next 3-4 years. Like, well, Richard, I already knew him outside of YouTube. He's a good guy and a good friend, but a lot of y'all I met, a lot of y'all have come to visit me here on the farm. I get pictures of what you guys are growing. I get comments on my YouTube channel. People say, wow, I watched this video. I never thought I could grow something in my yard, but I tried it out and I've got a little tree. Here's a picture of it. I love that. And that's how I want to spend my limited resource of time. That's what I want to do with my time right now. It's an investment of a scarce resource. The return on the investment is the joy I get from doing this. But it's also a very responsible way to spend my time because I do make a living at it. And I am building something that can be sold later in life, or what they'd call an appreciating asset, right? So when I chose to make this investment to become a farmer, I did not go into it lightly. I took a lot of time. I did a lot of analysis. I put together spreadsheets, predicted what my best case outcome would be in terms of income, what my worst case outcome would be. I built in to my model the fact that I could get a hurricane, or I could have something like our fire make us miss a year or 2 years of income. I had smart people review that kind of stuff. And I was leaning very heavily toward leaving the corporate life and doing something like this, but I wasn't quite sure if I wanted to jump off, right? I was on the diving board looking down. I just couldn't get myself to jump. Then I heard an interview on the radio. This guy, The Beast, I think he's a British game show, not contestant. He's not a host. He's like a challenge on this British game show where he's the guy who apparently has the highest IQ of any living human being right now. Smartest man in the world. And they ask questions. If you could beat the Beast, I guess you win money, right? And the interviewer said to him, he says, well, Beast, if you're so smart, right? Why don't you start a company? Why don't you, like Elon Musk or one of these guys, use that brain power to make all kinds of money, become an investor or something like that, put together some kind of finance program, And the Beast's reply was, he said, you're right, I do have a high IQ. Let me get one more scoopful of dirt here. And he said, one thing I've learned is there's really only 2 amounts of money. Enough and not enough. And in that, I'm sorry, there's a little squirrel over there. In that moment, I became so inspired, and I went back to my my spreadsheets and everything, and I looked it over and I said, man, you know, going by the average lifespan of a human being, I have this much money saved up, and these are my expenses, and this is how much my investments are going to yield, and I could probably make X amount of dollars off the farm. That's enough. It's not as much as if I stayed with the corporate world, but it's enough. It's more than not enough. And coincidentally, I had been offered an early retirement package. And I went onto my computer and I selected accept. And I took the early retirement package from my company, and I chose to invest my time in Sleepy Lizard Avocado Farm. That's about all I got in me. I'll just wrap up here. So I bought the farm, right? I looked around. Just like I talked about the decision process I went through in deciding which seedlings to plant. Here you see I got a pickup truck bed full of planted seedlings now, planted seeds. I went through the same process in deciding what type of farm did I want to buy. Did I want to board horses? Did I want to grow, did I want to have a grove and grow fruit off of trees? Did I want to do something with row crops? Did I want to do, even you could do poultry and stuff like that. You could do ornamental landscaping, palm trees and things like that. And I went through a lot of the stuff we talked about today on this video, and I decided on an avocado farm. And the first thing everybody asked me, because everybody here in Miami and Dade County is like a real estate expert, right? The first thing everyone asked me is, did you get a good price? I'd look them in the eye and I'd say, I don't know. They'd be like, what do you mean you don't know? I said, I don't know. I don't know if I got a good price. And I won't know until I sell the farm. If I hold this place for 20 years and I sell it for 6 times what I paid for it, one might say I got a good price. But then again, if I could have bought the neighboring property and held it for 20 years and sold it for 8 times what I bought it for, maybe my price wasn't so good here, right? Or likewise, I hold this place for 20 years and I sell it at a $100,000 loss. Oh, Tom, you overpaid for the property. I don't know. What if everyone else in Dade County is selling their properties at a much higher loss 20 years down the road? Maybe I'm selling at a loss, but less of a loss, in which case I did get a good price. You'll note an obvious change in video and audio quality. I had to switch cameras. Sorry about that. But what I was saying was, what was I saying? God, is it hot? Oh my God, is it hot? I think what I was talking about was the question, did I get a good price on this farm? And from an investment perspective, again, I won't know until I sell the place, right? When I sell the place, I'll be able to look at my initial investment, how much I made off the place working it as a farm, how much I saved in taxes because of the agricultural discounts we get as farmers. Then I'll be able to look at what I sell the place for, and then I'll be able to compare it, because I will have data, right? I'll be able to compare it to what the alternative uses, what the opportunity cost of me buying this farm was. And only then will I know, did I get a good price? Now, did I get a price that I'm comfortable with? Obviously, yes, right? I'd never buy a place if I wasn't comfortable with the price. Am I happy with the lifestyle I'm living here? Absolutely, yes. Do I feel like I made the right investment? I absolutely feel like I made the right investment. I love it. And I know you guys love it too, because I hear it in the comments. And I see it in the emails when you try a piece of our fruit and you say, wow, I've never had something like that before. I can't wait to buy it again. And if you haven't had a chance to try our avocados, you can get yourself a 10-pound box at guacfarm.com. guacfarm.com. Whatever fruit we have that's in season we sell here, that's usually avocado, sometimes mango. Next year we're going to start selling a fruit called mamey. I also sell my t-shirts and stickers out there. And when we have extra trees, I try to sell some trees too. I don't really care about making money off the trees. I just want you guys to have the growing experience, so you can grow along with us on the channel. Now, I mentioned my son's football practice. I got to get all these seedlings into the shade house, go into the house, take a shower, drink about a gallon of water, and then go out to a sunny football field and work for another 3 hours. While I do that, you go to guacfarm.com, and I will see you on the next video.